There's always something more that you feel that your last film has not been able to say, and that drives me to writing the next film. So my name is Mia Hansen-Löwe. I'm a French director, and I'm here with my film One Fine Morning. I don't think I actually say that my films are autobiographical. I think I've been making very personal films which were all inspired by experiences that I made. But when we say autobiography, what we mean generally, and it comes from the literature originally, we mean stories that would be totally faithful to the author's personal story. And it's actually not really the case of my films. For instance, Bergman Island, if you take Bergman Island, which is obviously a very personal film dealing with intimate things that are intimate issues for me, but then I was never too thorough with the father of my child, for instance. And that tells you about the fact that films are still fictions and they are still a recreation that use the material of my life, but reinvent it, transforms it into fiction. And it's still true with that film, but what I meant is that with that film it's maybe more direct. The connection with my own life is probably more frontal and more direct than in my previous films. It's easy to make the connections because my own father had the same disease like the father in the film. But then I'm not a translator, I don't even live in Paris anymore, actually. So it's also, it would be easy for me to tell you about all the differences. But what I mean is that the emotions that I start with, they all come from an intimate, personal experience. It's true that I need to make films that deal with things that I know, basically. I don't know how to write about things that I don't know personally in terms of human relationships and of the kind of characters that I'm portraying in my films. Well, I guess also it's also because it has to do with an idea that I have about the films, that they often are inspired in terms of their writing, but they are often inspired by the culture of films more than by the actual life. Like, for instance, this thing with the conflicts, people often tell me like, oh, there is not a lot of conflicts in your film. Why, for instance, I've been asked sometimes, like, why is Sandra not more angry at some point? She could be angry. And to me, it feels like these reactions, what they say is not so much about what happens in real life, but it's more about what we're used to see in films. There is a certain way of writing stories where you're supposed to create a lot of conflicts because it is seen as something that creates, entertainment and that creates rhythm. And I'm trying to be faithful to my experience of life, and I refuse somehow to artificially add more conflicts or more tension when it doesn't reflect my perception of a moment. So I don't think I'm trying to avoid it, but I'm trying to basically be as sincere as possible regarding what I think is my experience of life. And I'm trying to not be influenced by the habits and the conventions of storytelling. Which doesn't mean that I don't care about the rhythm. Of course I do care about it. It's very much in the heart of the questions that I ask myself, when I write. But I think there are other ways of creating rhythm and even suspense than just adding conflict or over-dramatizing some situations. Not really. I mean, I do think my film deals with how life can be cruel and brutal, and that means also how relationships can be cruel. It certainly is something that I admire, for instance, a lot about Bergman films, the way he's able to capture those moments where human relationships are so violent, so harsh. But I mean, everyone has its own language and his own way of looking at this, and I feel there is enough of that in the world of cinema. There is enough people wanting to show how ugly human relationships are, and there is certainly there is some truth in there, maybe, but it's certainly not the truth to me. And there is also a lot of posture, to my opinion, a lot of narcissism to me in spending so much, in giving so much attention to the ugliness. I think life is really short, and it takes so much time to make a film. You give so much energy to it. It's with you during maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And I want my film to elevate me somehow. So I don't want them to bring me back down to the ugliest part of life and of human beings, which doesn't mean that I'm trying to idealize human relationship or look at the only like sunny side of life. I don't think at all. But I think you can, and that's what I'm trying to do, you can, at the same time, you can try to be, lucid in the way you look at life, and at the same time you can still look for light, you know. My film influenced my everyday life. The atmosphere of my film actually has an impact on my own mood, you know. They are so close to me. I mean, I live with them. So I think why you make this or that film has to do with what you are looking for. So in your personal life as an artist, what you want the films to bring you. And I couldn't make films that would only pull me back to the darkest sides of life. Well, I think that it's a lot about a certain alchemy indeed, and it's hard to put it into words. It's nothing. I wouldn't say that the connections between the characters in my film are really intellectual, but they do carry a spiritual dimension with them. The attraction between the characters, when we're talking about love stories in my film, they are never only sexual or erotic, although it can be a very important dimension of relationship, especially in this film between the character of Sandra and Clément. It's a passion, it's physical, it's sexual, but to me there is always something more to it, or at least I don't see sexuality as only being sexuality. In my films, it's always this and something more. But it's difficult to, I don't think it's put into words in my film, but it's still there. It has to do with the invisible. And I think all the films are about that, trying to capture with images something that doesn't have to do with images. It's the whole point, and the whole difficulty, I guess, about making films. You were mentioning Claire Denis' talk earlier, and something that I think she once said sticks with me, actually. I think she once said that she was making every film against the previous one, like as an answer to the previous one. I don't know, I don't remember exact words, and I wouldn't say that my films are against the previous one, but like complementary. Complémentaire. I would say that I always feel after each film that each film that I do as if it was my last film. I'm trying to say what's the most important thing for me today at this moment. And of course, it's a quest that you never reach the truth about that. There is always something missing. And what helps me, and that feeling of a lack, you know, something that I couldn't say yet and that wasn't said, and that there is always something more that you feel that your last film has not been able to say. And that drives me to writing the next film. And what drives me in life? Well, I think it's to be honest, it's difficult for me to separate life from the films. I think they are so deeply connected for me. It's not like life on the one side and films on the other side. Basically, my film Bergman Island tries to express that they are organically mixed. So I feel like my life is a constant quest as well. And creation is in the heart of it. So it's a constant quest for meaning, for truth.